Canon M6 Mark II was released in September 2019 alongside the Canon 90D, which is basically the same camera but in a DSLR body. A little under 3 years after, the Canon R7 was brought in to replace this camera, or the 7D Mark II, depending on who you ask. I'm here to compare these two cameras and tell you why 9 out of 10 situations I'm picking the M6 Mark II over the R7, despite the R7 being like newer and an objectively better camera. Let me also preface this by stating that I have a Canon R6 which functions as my main workhorse camera, so the choice that I'm making between these two cameras is more of something to complement it instead of to be used as a main camera. So with those circumstances there, I think you might understand my choice a little bit better. As you can see, the R7 is quite a bit bigger than the M6 Mark II. That's because I think the main purpose of the R7 is not for it to be light and compact. It's supposed to be a good workhorse camera. Whereas the M6 Mark II, its biggest advantage to me has to be its small size, together with the lenses as well. It makes it really easy for me to use as a second camera or as a camera for like travel, or even like a carry around camera, or even like a family event kind of camera. Speaking of lens sizes, the Canon EFM system offers a variety of small and lightweight lenses which actually do pack a punch. Most of them do. One of my favorites have to be the kit lens, which is the 15 to 45mm f some ridiculous dark aperture, as well as the 55 to 200mm, another ridiculous dark aperture lens. But also they have these really good small and lightweight but very bright aperture primes, which namely is the 22mm f2 as well as the 32mm f1.4. These are high quality lenses you can get on the EFM system. The Canon RF system does have some of these APS-C lenses, but they are lacking in the high quality primes department. They mostly have these like dark aperture zooms only so far. Obviously there is the option of using the RF like full frame glass, including this like high quality L lenses and all, but these tend to be really expensive, and also they tend to be really big and bulky. The quality is, you know, top notch. However, there is a bit of an issue when you use full frame lenses on APS-C sensors. They tend to not perform as well as they do on full frame sensors, and they tend to not even perform as well as APS-C lenses, dedicated APS-C lenses on APS-C sensors. The EFM mount does have native support for third-party lenses with autofocus, whereas the RF mount, obviously we know that they do not at this moment of time. So there's another alternative if you want to get higher quality lenses for the EFM, which is absent on the RF side of things. Alternatively, there is the option to adapt EF and EFS glass onto these cameras, but having an adapter there, you know, it kind of like increases the sizes of these cameras by quite a bit. These lenses also tend to be slightly bigger than the mirrorless lenses because they are made for DSLR cameras. Here's where I think the R7 pulls ahead quite a bit. The R7 is rock solid, it's built like a tank, and it's built to last, whereas I cannot say the same for the M6 Mark II. The R7 is also weather sealed, provided you use a weather seal lens together with it, whereas the M6 Mark II is not. The R7 also has better feeling dials and like buttons compared to the M6 Mark II, although I do like the buttons and dials placement on the M6 Mark II a little bit more. The R7 also has better ergonomics, it fits better in the hands compared to the M6 Mark II's body in my opinion. The R7 also has a fully articulating LCD screen, whereas the M6 Mark II only has that flippy thing, it flips front and back. I can't say I prefer the R7 for this, I actually prefer the R6 flippy screens. The only time I wanted to flip out or flip the other way is when I'm shooting a vertical photo and I want to shoot at a lower angle. That's the only time I would miss that rotating LCD screen. And that, my preference has to sit with the tilting screen of the M6 Mark II. The R7 has 2 SD card slots as opposed to the M6 Mark II's single card slot. Finally, the M6 Mark II has a built-in flash that I actually quite like using occasionally, whereas the R7 does not. There is obviously the option to attach external flash for both of these cameras. This one's a toss-up. The R7 runs on the LPE6NH batteries, which are similar to the R5 and R6, as opposed to the M6 Mark II running on these LPE17 batteries, which are similar to the RP and the R8. Now, there are pros and cons, in my opinion, to these two battery systems. The LPE6NH batteries are bigger, they last longer, but they are, they're bulky, they're bigger, and they also cost quite a little bit more than the LPE17 batteries, which I love. They are small, they are easy to bring around. I would much rather have like less battery life but lug around more of these tiny batteries that pretty much weigh nothing over carrying these heavy batteries, which I will have to bring extra of anyways. But based on my experience using the M6 Mark II on travels, I rarely go a day even while shooting videos. Like, I don't go an entire day and like run through more than 3 batteries. So I just carry 4 batteries around with me the entire time. These batteries are small, so they pretty much don't feel like they weigh any extra in my bag. This one isn't even a debate. The Canon M6 Mark II has an amazing autofocusing system. It was fantastic when it came out and it still holds its own today. However, the autofocusing system on the R7 is literally the next level. You can select different autofocusing modes, be it like animal eye detection or vehicle detection and a couple more things. And it also shares the same autofocusing engine as the Canon R3. I haven't actually tested these two cameras for photos like side by side. Let me know if you want me to do a video like that in the future. However, based on the videos that I watch on Roger Hansen's channel, as well as having edited M6 Mark II images and R7 images like extensively, I can conclude that like they both have pretty similar image qualities. However, the R7 is slightly better. They both have the same 33 megapixel sensors. Canon swears they're different, and I will take their word for it because somehow the R7 images tend to look slightly sharper, and it's probably something to do with the processing as well, but the colors come out looking a little bit more nicer on the R7 to me. They pop a little bit more. However, there's nothing that I can't do in post to mitigate the color part of it. Sharpness part of it, I don't think sharpness is the biggest thing I look for in the quality of my images. So I would say that the R7 is better, but it's not what I look for in like an upgrade in terms of like image quality. The M6 Mark II has a burst rate of 14 frames per second in mechanical shutter mode compared to the R7's 15 frames per second, so not much difference there. However, in the electronic shutter mode, the Canon R7 does 30 frames per second, which is just that's faster than the video that I'm shooting right now. Whereas the M6 Mark II just does not have a burst mode in electronic shutter, which really baffles me, but it is what it is. Finally, we're talking about video, and this is basically where the R7 just punches M6 Mark II down into the ground and have the body not recovered again. I made an entire list of this. The R7 has better 4K, it's downsampled from 7K compared to like the rumored upsampled from 3K image on the M6 Mark II. It also doesn't overheat, which the M6 Mark II does. It's pretty much a 1080p camera. The R7 can do high frame rate shooting with autofocus, basically can do 100 frames per second, but keeping the autofocus on, whereas the M6 Mark II just shuts off the autofocus when you're in that mode. You have C-Log 3 on the R7, whereas the M6 Mark II, you have no access to any sort of C-Log, not even C-Log version 1. You've got objectively better dynamic range. You have virtually no overheating issues, and you also have no recording limits on the R7, which you do on the M6 Mark II. It has a 30 rated record limit. Looking at prices of these things, the M6 Mark II is significantly cheaper now, especially in the used market, and it's definitely supported by the fact that the EFM system has been cancelled. It's been discontinued. So, everyone's just selling all their gear. They're selling it at a pretty cheap price, and that also affects the native lenses on the EFM mounts. However, not the same can be said about the R7, though it is priced pretty reasonably considering its really good capabilities. At the end of the day, there's only one situation where I would pick the R7 over the M6 Mark II, and it's got to be in video production. If I need access to a log profile, or when I'm using it as a B cam to my R6, or if I'm using it even as an A cam because that camera is that good. That's the only time I would pick the R7 over the M6 Mark II. Apart from that, as I mentioned, 9 out of 10 times I'm picking the M6 Mark II over the R7. Once again, finally bearing in mind that I am picking a camera to accompany my R6. So yes, I hope you enjoyed this video and my stuffy nose. And comment, subscribe, like if you want to. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.